Hello. I always do that.
You've tuned in to the Pure Motive Radio Network, where recovery has a voice. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Monday night, and you know what time that is. It's time for Marti MacGibbon's Kickass Personal Transformation. And now I give you your host, Marti MacGibbon.
Hey, everybody, it's Marty, and happy Monday night. We got a real treat for you. I know if you were following my blog and looking on my website, you know that our guest is, we have a return appearance from Dr. Stephen F. Grinstead, Dr. AD, LMFT, ACRPS, and KDAC 2. And he really wowed us a few weeks back talking about addiction-free pain management. And hello, Steve, Dr. Grinstead.
Hi there. Thanks for having me back. I really appreciate it. It's St. Patty's Day, too, so don't forget to wish everybody one of those.
That's right. Happy St. Patty's Day. And this is so appropriate, having a recovery radio show on Pure Motive Radio where recovery has a voice on St. Patty's, which is such a big drinking holiday. I think it's really appropriate that we're celebrating recovery in this way and talking about addiction-free pain management.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's been a very exciting day. One of my sponsees just celebrated 2 years clean and sober today, and it's been a really awesome trip with him.
Excellent. That's nice. 2 years on St. Patrick's. That's a great anniversary to have in recovery, isn't it?
Yeah, what a day. He said, you know, he'll leave this day for the amateurs.
That's good. Yeah, those of us that are pros, we've all retired now. We're in the NFL. We've had our Super Bowl rings and drinking, and we can sit back now. Let the amateurs get out there. That's good. I like that. So, hey, if you don't mind, I'm just going to hit the highlights of your magnificent bio for our guests that are just tuning in for the first time to hear you. And for the returning guests that are waiting in queue to talk, this is going to be quick. I'm just hitting the highlights. Like I said, Dr. Grinstead is highly qualified. He's got several credentials, and he's a senior consultant and trainer for the Gorski Synapse Corporation. He is the developer of the addiction-free pain management system, which is trademark system. Steve has been working with pain management, addictive disorders, and coexisting mental and personality disorders for 2 decades. He was formerly in private practice in Sacramento, as well as consulting for pain clinics in Sacramento and other spots in California, and working with patients experiencing chronic pain and coexisting psychological disorders, including addiction. Dr. Grinstead was on the faculty of UC Santa Cruz Extension Alcohol and Drug Studies program and also taught at Santa Clara University, UC Berkeley Extension, and Stanford University Medical School. And he has co-authored and authored several fantastic books. Several of those books I have read, and I highly recommend them. And you can find out more about the doc on his website, freedomfromsuffering.org. So take it away, Dr. Steve Grinstead. Tell us what's going on in the world of pain management tonight.
Okay, first of all, we have a new website since that was printed. It's freedomfromsufferingnow.com.
Oh,
so
I'm sorry.
now.
I goofed up your Freedom from Suffering Now. Whoops, sorry about that. Freedom from Suffering Now. That's very key, the now part. I like that.
They would have got to the same place because we've had all those forwarded up to the new site because we really have put a lot of great, exciting things, both for people living with pain, addiction, mental health, or all of the above, to where they can get some help, and also for treatment professionals that want to get some help with this challenging thing with having chronic pain and coexisting problems. So I'm just very excited about it. Talking about this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wonderful. Back when I was working with veterans, I had a client who had severe. I mean, he had severe pain, chronic pain, and addiction, and he had had a suicide attempt where he had overdosed with Vicodin, and so of course he wasn't taking Vicodin, but that was a complicated case, and he did well. He got sober, and that was good. But I think as far as I know, last time I heard from him, he was still sober. So that's really good. But I know if I had known more about the APM system, if I had that training, which I'm preparing to take with you in April, yahoo! I'm really excited. I would have been able to do so much more for him.
Yeah. And there are a lot of people that really need extra help. I mean, it's a very underserved and challenged population, I just, last month, I was fortunate enough to go to San Antonio to Laurel Ridge, who has a whole component for military resiliency. And they're starting to implement the Gorski Synapse model and my addiction-free pain management model for these steps. And it's just so exciting to be offering people who feel hopeless. That's the whole thing. People need some hope that there is a better way.
Yeah. And it's easy to feel hopeless when you have chronic pain. I know because I have chronic pain, and one of the things I do that I have an emotional reaction when I have a flare-up. I drop into that hopeless thing like, oh, what am I going to do in 5 years? What am I going to do when I get older? That kind of thing. And I have to grab a hold of that thought process and turn it around. I have to keep, pulling myself up and saying, wait a minute, this is just a thought. It's just a thought. It's not a diagnosis. It's not a prognosis. This is just a negative thought. And
it might even
be
self-defeating. It might even be self-defeating and not true.
Exactly. Right.
Imagine that.
Yes, I can't imagine that.
Yeah, a lot of people enter what I call a chronic pain trance when they live with chronic pain. And that's a place where they get very negative, very hopeless, helpless, and just totally out of control. Yeah. Right. It's I'm just laughing about it because I do it myself. I mean, I have that it's right there. So if I slip into it, then I have to catch myself and come back out and apply some other things, meditation and positive self-talk and other things.
And
meditation. Yeah. Oops, that was bad.
Yeah, what was that?
I accidentally walked next to the computer where the show is playing, and that's never a good idea.
Yeah, that does cause a problem. Okay. Can I ask you something about pain? Like, now is neuropathic pain? Is that that's just connected to neuropathy? Is that what it is? I mean,
that's part of it. There's different types of neuropathic pain, but basically it's because there's either a malfunction or damage to the nervous system, and it means the system isn't working correctly. Basically, it's like with a house where the wiring gets short circuited or it gets opened up, and things don't work right when wires get crossed. That's putting it really simple. But there's also another component that living with chronic pain 24/7 for a long time, it's remodeled. Your pain system gets remodeled, and where pain, instead of being abnormal, becomes the normal. And that's neuropathic pain, and that's part of it. And it's really challenging. And the good news is, though, that we have learned that we can retrain the brain. There's a lot of research on neuroplasticity that talks about how to reprogram the brain, and part of it is by changing thoughts and behaviors and start programming in some healthier thinking and behaving patterns until you start shifting. It's like the old thing when a person's got an injury in a car accident and it injured a part of the brain that controls bodily functions like walking, and that part of the brain got damaged or destroyed even in some cases. So through occupational therapy and physical therapy, they would retrain other parts of the brain to take over. So we know that the brain is an amazing organ. I mean, it is very shapeable, modelable, very plastic.
Yes, it is.
So
there's
excitement about that today.
It is exciting. It's even if part of the brain has been even removed, the rest of the brain can reroute. So that's
and that's
they've learned that now.
Too.
Right.
Yeah, and that's for the
pain
system.
And
it's new.
Yeah. Now, do you think? I don't know. With chronic pain, with some pain, it's like an invisible pain. There are a lot of people walking around with chronic pain where they look fine. They're not injured. Like that doesn't look like there's not a cast, there's not crutches, there's no bandages. And I know with me, I had to come through the thing of feeling guilty about the pain, or because I that thing of not feeling justified. Whereas if I had fallen and broken my arm and I had a cast and a sling, then I would feel I would almost feel better, because it's almost like there's a sort of a social approval that comes along with that. You know what I mean? And it's strange that way.
You're hitting on a very crucial and important part, because the biological, the psychological, and then there's the social, cultural aspects of pain and the identity that gets put on people. And so people become their diagnosis, basically, and it spirals them down.
Yeah, and that's true. I know when I was told by doctors, I've been told negative things by a couple of doctors, and it really had an effect on me, because I accepted it as truth. And it turns out that they don't know. And one of the things that I found by reading one of your many excellent books, and I have read, anyway, but when you talked about how doctors really don't know about chronic pain. I mean, there's the different types of pain, and if there's swelling, if there's the obvious site. Didn't you have the 3 levels? There was what were those? Can you tell us? I mean, the level 3 was the chronic pain.
Yeah, there's a lot of different types of pain, but basically pain has a number of different components to it, and that's unfortunately a lot of doctors. Well, I don't think any med school teaches doctors how to treat chronic pain. They have to go into specialty afterwards. They learn how to manage acute pain, and they start using these acute pain interventions on chronic pain problems, and that's why we've been seeing such a big problem for a lot of people. Using opiates to manage a chronic pain condition, and for probably 15 to 20% of the population, that's a very bad idea.
Yeah, and then people are dying.
Well, people are dying, and also people are developing a condition called opiate-induced hyperalgesia, which simply means that the medication they're taking is causing the pain symptoms they're taking the medication for. That's putting it really simple, but that's what happens. The system becomes hypersensitive to pain signals because of being on prolonged use of opiates, and when that's combined with the pain system being remodeled from living in chronic pain, people are in real trouble.
Right.
So, Dr. Grinstead, just for our listeners, what is the difference between acute pain and chronic pain? How would a person know?
Well, acute pain is something that there's something happens, like an injury, a broken bone, a cut. You get your finger caught in a door or something, and the healing process will take a short amount of time, usually a few weeks, sometimes up to a few weeks or a couple of months. it becomes persistent or chronic pain after 3 to 6 months. And most of a lot of the experts in the field today are saying that a lot of the original pain generators are healed as well as they're ever going to get within about 3 to 6 months. So then you're dealing with a chronic condition, and that's because of how the system has gotten reprogrammed. Now, there are
and part of that,
in general.
Yeah, I think I created a chronic pain cycle for myself when I had a couple of injuries that caused me to quit a job that I really loved, and they wanted to keep me on the job too. They were trying to, but I had to quit that job. And when I did, I had a period of grief and loss over having to, and I, looking back now, because I've made a lot of progress with my chronic pain. Looking back now, I think that grief and loss situation, the way that I I experienced that with that pain, I think that might have had a lot to do with establishing the chronic pain cycle that I experienced for a few years afterwards. Could that be?
Absolutely. Because what that does is that becomes part of what I call the amplifier circuit. It just amplifies the symptoms. That cycle, that's suffering. When you're grieving and lost and you're angry, you're upset, you're missing the old ways, you're feeling my life is useless, it's over.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being there about, 32 years ago. I've been living with chronic pain 32 years. I can remember being in that, and a lot of it was self-inflicted.
Yeah, I went through a period of that, and then I found other things, and I began to climb out of it. But I still had that chronic pain cycle. And then when I started studying studying APM last year, and read one of your books, and started to apply some of those things, changing, using the CBT and some other things to break the cycle. I got a tremendous amount of. I've made so much progress, and there are things that I thought that I would never be able to do again, or that doctors had said, "Oh, you'll never do this or that," that I am doing. So they were wrong, and they call it practice in medicine, and practicing medicine. Some of them need a little more practice.
The other thing is a lot of people, and some of this is because of our medical system, a lot of times they want to take the easier, softer way, and it's much easier to write a prescription than it is to set somebody up for a multidisciplinary assessment and deal with, medication is just one part of an effective pain management plan. And unfortunately,
I don't use medication at all. I've never used medication.
Some people absolutely need to be on some type of appropriate medication management, especially people in recovery. There's two steps in this. I really want to make this clear to our audience tonight. For someone in recovery that gets injured or has chronic pain, there's two major ways that you could relapse and lose your recovery, your sobriety. And that one is the obvious. You take the wrong thing or too much of even the right thing. But the other one I've seen the other way lead to just as many relapses. That's attitude of not going to take nothing no matter what. And for some people, for a lot of people, lead to a big relapse, because what happens is people get into suffering. And then at some point they figure, why sober if I'm suffering?
Right. Yeah, we have to stay on top of the pain. So.
Yeah, and you've got to realize that pain, and boy, I tell you how many times people wanted to hit me when I tell them that. If you ever want to get better when you're living with chronic pain, you've got to stop fighting the pain, make peace with the pain, and make your pain your best friend. Yeah.
You were saying that last when you were with us for your first guest appearance, and that was really cosmic and deep. I love that. What did you think about that, Steve? It took you a couple of years to develop that, or did you say?
To stop the war, to stop fighting, to stop the war.
Oh, yeah.
To stop fighting pain. It took a couple of years. And it just dawned on me at one point, I'm fighting myself. I've got to stop this. I've got to make peace with this. Because pain is here's the basics of pain. Pain is a signal that tells us there's something wrong that needs attention. That's it in the simplest form. We have receptor sites throughout the body that sends a signal up to the brain, the area of the brain called the thalamus, that says danger, danger, pain, pain. And how that pain gets interpreted is the difference between ouch, this hurts, and oh man, this is horrible, awful, terrible, I can't stand it. And that's suffering.
Yeah. Boy, you got that right.
So you mentioned a really good point, and that is about pain, medication in general. And I've seen it all too often that in recovery, you'll hear people completely shut down any medications whatsoever. And that's a very dangerous thing, even to the extent where some people may be on psychotic medication, and you just can't stop it. So
right,
it seems like balance and management is crucial.
It is. I can't take medication orally, but I have some pain patches that I use that are lidocaine. And they help a lot, but my stomach can't tolerate meds, so I'm in a kind of difficult thing. But these lidocaine patches are really good. I mean, they help a lot, and I use those. But I know what you mean, Steve. It's kind of like I've talked to people in recovery that said, oh well, I was on antidepressants, but I got off them because I didn't want to have to change my sobriety date. Well, heck, if you're taking an antidepressant, it's got nothing to do with sobriety. If you're taking something to manage pain, it's not going to affect your sobriety date. It's if you're getting wasted, if you're getting high. That's right. Am I right?
Yeah, because a lot of people in recovery, for instance, need to go in and have surgical, dental, or medical surgical procedures. Hey, I guarantee you, I'm not going to go in without painkillers for those. That's
no way.
Insane. And plus, it slows down the healing process.
Pain shuts down the healing process.
Yeah, intense. If the pain gets so intense, it slows down how the body heals.
Sure.
But it's the right recovery-friendly and monitored approaches that really, and that's a lot in my addiction-free pain management module 4. I wrote it because I was always getting these questions. What do I do if I have to go in and have surgery? What do I do if I have pain? And so I wrote this, and it's a guide for managing pain and medication in recovery. And it's a really simple, strategic, step-by-step process that if people follow that, they'll have good outcomes.
So
that's good.
What would you recommend? Let's say, hypothetically, somebody has a doctor that they've had for years and they know and trust, and they may be concerned that the doctor is treating them with medication or improperly, or may not realize that the person has realized they have an addictive personality. How could a person approach their doctor and handle that situation? Because there's a hierarchy, there's a respect. I don't know the right word for it, but it would be hard to approach your doctor and say, hey, look, I think I have a problem. This may be too much. What would you recommend?
Well, I teach my patients how that doctors are not medical deities. Doctors are there to serve us. We don't serve them. And I need to be an active participant in my pain management, not a passive recipient. And that's how I train patients I work with. And a lot of times sometimes they need to find an advocate, somebody who's knowledgeable about addiction, recovery, and relapse, to have a dialogue with their doctor, to be an intermediary for them. Because, I've had really good results with probably 90% of the physicians I consult with are really open to listening, and because it's not about them being wrong or anything. It's about, hey, you're dealing with a really troubling situation here that if it gets mismanaged, this person could die and possibly take people out with them. And there's probably a better way. Are you willing to think about this, or that? And then I'll lead them to the SAMHSA websites, the NIDA website. I'll ask them to take a look at my website. I'll send them information about what a multidisciplinary system. In the chronic pain literature and the best practice principles for all the pain entities, the American Academy of Pain Management, American Academy of Pain Medicine, International Association for the Study of Pain, all of them say the same thing. Chronic pain management needs an interdisciplinary team approach that includes psychological, physiological, physical therapy, medication management, that needs all the modalities working together for a chronic pain treatment. And yet we often only get authorized people for medication management. So it's the system's broke. It's a system problem.
Yeah.
There's one more question I've been dying to ask, and that is diet. Does diet play a part? For instance, if a person is just eating donuts and drinking coffee all the time, that could be a problem.
Yeah, it was a problem. One of the team players on an interdisciplinary team is a nutritionist to find out, because some pain conditions actually get triggered with certain foods, and other pain conditions, it gets helped. It can be helped with certain foods. Foods help make it better. Certain foods make it worse. Nicotine is very dangerous for people living with most chronic pain conditions, with a couple of exceptions, but for most of them, nicotine actually impairs the way the pain is managed. So that's a very dangerous substance. Sugar, caffeine. Caffeine can, in some cases, be an asset, and others a liability. So it's meeting the person where they're at, and that's why it takes a team approach, and it takes a multidisciplinary assessment to make sure you get the right treatment protocols. And unfortunately, a lot of people, because of our system, don't have the resources to get their needs met. And so you need to educate yourself as best you can. And there's a lot of places out there. Dr. Andrew Wheel is one of the websites I often send my patients to.
Oh, yeah. I like him.
Diet. I mean, he's got the pyramid for anti-inflammatory, and you eat close to the bottom of the pyramid, and it's going to help your pain condition.
Yeah, his cookbook is good too. He's good. I like him.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a resource I often send people to.
Yeah, so diet and exercise, and one of the things that that's so important is the thing that is to move around. Move around more. That really helps pain.
Yeah, flexibility and mobility. And another great doc, Dr. Pete Egoscue in Southern California, his whole premise is around people with chronic pain need to learn how to increase their mobility and flexibility if they ever want to manage their pain effectively. I really like his work.
Yeah, so stretching and lots of cardio and other things. What about building up muscle strength when you have joint pain? I mean, is that something you can get a physical therapist to help you with, or how does that work?
Yeah. A physical therapist, some people need occupational therapists, but a physical therapist, how to do differently that won't flare up your pain condition. For back pain, for example, build the core. You need to build up the core, and you need to make sure to really have the person learn some really good stretches for their legs, because a lot of low back pain comes from muscles in the legs being too tight and tense and knotting up. So, teaching people some really simple tools that once they learn them, they don't have to keep paying somebody. They learn it, and then they do it. I always tell my patients when I work with them, my job is to work myself out of a job by teaching you how to be your own specialist.
Right. That's beautiful. So, one of the things... Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No,
I just had a question. It is. I wanted to ask about endogenous pain, the endogenous opiates that are in our brains the natural, right? The neurotransmitters that we have. I know we have endorphins, and then what are these enkephalins?
Yeah,
am I pronouncing it right? Enkephalins.
Enkephalins, yeah, enkephalins. The endorphins, the enkephalins, those are the body's natural painkillers. And the reason that these medications, these prescription medication works is because they are so similar. They can go through the blood-brain barrier, and they can mimic and match the landing sites, because in the brain there's neurotransmitter landing sites that have to be the right site. It's like a lock and a key. And so these
the receptor site. Yeah.
Go into the right lock. So they've developed these medications that mimic the body's natural products, and sometimes that can be a blessing and sometimes it can be a curse. And it's not about I don't believe it's about a bad medication. It's rather how it's used, who it's used with, that can have good or bad outcomes. And there's a whole lot of debate about that. My latest news and research article on Freedom from Suffering Now is about the new super hydrocodone that just is being authorized this year, despite all the protests.
Why is that being?
Pardon?
Oh no, I just can't believe they'd be doing that when they were already cracking down on the non-super Vicodin. Now they have a super Vicodin they're going to release.
No, it's super hydrocodone. It doesn't have the acetaminophen or Tylenol.
Oh, okay, good. Oh, I didn't catch it. I was like, what?
It's super hydrocodone. And last year, the FDA advisory panel voted 11-2 to say, don't do this. And then a whole committees of addiction medicine docs all around the country sent a request into the FDA, please don't do this. And yet here we are. They're going to do it. And some people are saying that chronic pain needs it. But what really needs it is the pharmaceutical company needs it.
Right, because they're drug dealers. They're making money on getting people strung out, and well, maybe I'm oversimplifying, but I'm a comedian too, so I just. But I think of the pharmaceutical companies like drug dealers sometimes, because it seems like they're really pushing stuff, and they don't care.
Marty, what's happening now is the FDA and the DEA have been the last several years cracking down on drug diverting, prescription drug abuse, and all that. And now what's happening is we're going to have a national heroin epidemic, because a lot
I wanted to hear your take on that. Yeah, there's a huge heroin crisis now, and people are they're turning to heroin. Soccer moms, professionals, people are turning to heroin because they can't get any more OxyContin or Vicodin, or and they're caught in a chronic pain cycle, right? So they moved over to heroin, and heroin's so cheap right now. The heroin's coming from Mexico. That's what I've been reading. That it's like 90% pure, and it's dirt cheap. Back in the day when I was using heroin, it cost a lot more. I read some of those prices. I was blown away.
Well, they're doing it on purpose. They're doing it on purpose to capture this new market of people that would rather do this than go through the hassles of trying to fight the DEA. And eventually the price will go up and the quality will go down.
Right. They've got to get people hooked.
We continue to fight war on drugs on a supply side basis instead of the demand side, and doing intervention and prevention and treatment, which we know works.
Exactly.
The researchers, all of those work.
Right. You've got to attack the demand. Yeah. Reduce the demand.
Don't get me started.
Why not? We want to get you started. You're the guest. Go on. Get on. Roam free. Talk to us.
I just wish we'd be a little smarter about this. It's just the war on drugs is a failure, and the war on pain patients is really hurting a lot of people.
It is,
and it's a lot of real well-meaning physicians are losing their license and even liberty, and because of technical paperwork mistakes. because they didn't know any better. They didn't take the FDA and DEA mandated requirements for treating with opiates. And a lot of people, pain patients are getting accused of being drug-seeking and druggies.
Right, the pain. So the pain patients are getting caught in the middle of this, and and nobody's getting helped. Oh, yeah, I think the war on drugs has been wrong all along, because they, like you said, it's a supply side thing, and they've gone about it all wrong. So it's ended up being a war on people instead of a war on drugs. I don't know where it's going to end. But so what does a person do if, say somebody has pain, chronic pain, and is in a situation where maybe a medication they've been taking. I'm talking about somebody in recovery, say, and I'm just speaking hypothetically, but I'm sure that a lot of there are listeners out there who may be in this situation. Say in recovery, staying sober, taking a pain medication as directed, and then there are cutbacks, and say a doctor says, hey, I can't do this for you anymore. I'm not writing these prescriptions now because of pressure from the FDA and so on, right? And they find themselves without their pain medication, and their doctor, I don't know, if say they take an alternative medication, maybe it doesn't work right away. Is there a way to get the natural? Is there a way that a person could, while they're waiting to find something that could help with the pain, something exogenous that they can take, that would help? Is there a way in that transition period that they can apply some of these other methods that might help to release more of these natural pain relievers to help with that?
As a matter of fact, what I've seen with some people that have been told, and I have a couple on my caseload now, they're workers' comp people, and workers' comp is starting to really be under the microscope with the DEA, so they're starting to take people off of opiates that have been on them 5, 10, 15 years. And it really panics people at first, but by helping them taper off in a healthy way so they don't go into really bad withdrawal. Fortunately, opiate withdrawal doesn't kill people. They just wish they'd die. But people don't die from opiate withdrawal. It's just very painful. But what a lot of these people I'm working with, I teach them how to do relaxation, stress management, some cognitive behavioral interventions, and to really find healthy, safe ways, working with their doctor or their physical therapist, how to increase their flexibility and mobility, that once the opiates are out of the system, for some people it's as little as 10 days, they start noticing their baseline pain is actually lower than when they were taking this high dose of the opiate. That's the opiate hyperalgesia.
And that's because of the hyperalgesia, right?
Right. Not for everybody, but that's for a big part, a large number of people. So for some people, that can be a blessing. You don't want to be on opiates. That's why, best practice standards is to put people on opiate holidays every once in a while when you're doing pain management, have an exit plan, and see if they still need it.
Oh, that's good.
If there's other things that can work. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't have the resources to get the effective help they want. That's one of the reasons I put so much information up on our website so people can, knowledge is power, learn as much as you can. Go check out all my articles, the news research, my whole blog site, and I'm doing all kinds. Like today, tomorrow's going to be posting about the pain spiral, chronic pain spiral and anticipatory pain. My latest article was on anticipatory pain. So, people can learn about this, so that you can be proactive. You need to be proactive if you're living with chronic pain.
Right. And that website is, your website is just a real wealth of resources and education. I've been visiting your site, and it's wonderful, and I just highly recommend it to anybody who's listening tonight or who will be listening to the podcast later. Check out Freedom from Suffering Now. freedomfromsuffering.com, right?
On the webinar.
I just want to make sure I had that right. freedomfromsufferingnow.com. It's a wonderful website, and the posts are very educational.
I want people to go to the events page and look at the webinar, because we're giving one away. The first one's free.
I missed that one webinar. Believe me, that one webinar you had, Doc, I missed. I had something that I had to do that night, and I missed it. It was the one on the stereotypes around addiction.
That was a teleseminar. You can still listen. It's up on our site.
Can you still listen to that? Oh, wonderful. I'm going to go on and listen.
Yeah, that's Barbara Thompson. She's the Sacramento Executive Director of NCADD, the National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence. We did the whole thing about destigmatizing addiction. But I'm talking about the webinar. The webinar page.
Oh, you have webinars too?
I have webinars, and it's about the one is the overview of freedom from suffering. It's all about freedom from suffering, and it's free. We want people just need to put in their name and email, and they'll have access to it. And then I have
Where do we
other
find
ones.
that? Where do we find that on your site?
It's on the events. You go to the events tab, and then on the events tab, you'll see live trainings, you'll see webinars, and you'll see teleseminars. So those are three different ways to interact with me: in person,
wonderful,
by teleseminar, or by a webinar presentation where you get to hear me take you through a strategic presentation, a strategic PowerPoint presentation on different topics. And we've priced them low right now. We have introductory priced low for people. So, and the first one's free, so to let people know what it's about. And
that's
it's very exciting because I want to offer people some resources, that there is a better way. You know, and I also offer video conference or telephone coaching to people too. You know, consultation and treatment planning services for people that are in other parts of the country. I have coaching clients all over the United States and Canada. I love helping people get unstuck.
Thank you so much for being so available. I mean, I'm always I'm just so grateful to you for coming on the show, and then secondly, for making all of this available to us on your website and making it affordable, and the fact that you're there. I've always, I've referred people to your website in the past, and they've been able to go on, and people with pain, friends of mine, they've been able to go on. They've been able to avail themselves of resources and find out information, and it's just wonderful. I just want to thank you so much for doing what you do. And we've still got some time left, so it sounds like I'm closing the show. But I just wanted to say that, to say thank you. You know, it's wonderful what you're doing.
I just want to offer people hope, because there is a lot of hope. And for people, even people without chronic pain who are living with addictive disorders, sometimes they become hopeless and helpless. That's one of my other passions is relapse prevention. I really, my dear friend and mentor, Terry Gorski, I've been working with him since 1991, and he's one of the ones that taught me to make treatment services affordable and accessible. That was one of the very first things, Terry. And
he's a wonderful mentor.
I'm so grateful for him.
Yeah, he has taught me so much, and of course, well, I know him, but yeah, that for the relapse prevention, I have the ACRPS thanks to you and Terry, and so it is it's amazing how everything in our lives, our addiction becomes an integral part of everything, of our personalities, of every kind of everything, of our memories, our emotions, our thoughts, urges, actions, and social reactions, right? And just I was just so but then when we enter recovery, we reprogram and reframe everything. And that's the process that sets us free and helps us to break through a relapse cycle. And there is hope if we do a program of daily renewal, and we're willing to do the work to find out what the emotional triggers are and some of those things. And I know I had things that drove my addiction. There were emotional things that haunted me, and those were driving my addiction. I still have to watch for those things when I have chronic pain. If I have a flare-up, I have to watch for the roots of, because I had PTSD and stuff. I have to check back and see if maybe there's been a trigger. Because I think those things do play in. I mean, everything is integrated. We are a system. We are a system, right? I mean, we're people, but we are also systems.
Well, our brains are a permanent hard drive that everything has been recorded on. It's all still there. It never goes away. And with the right keystrokes, this program will come back up. And that's what happens. A lot of people in long-term recovery that develop pain or get injured or something, that re-triggers some of the old trauma from back in the addiction days, or what led to some people were drinking and using to manage trauma and PTSD, for example.
I was.
And under the right situations, those get re-triggered in long-term recovery. And if people start trying to manage that with early recovery tools, it just doesn't work.
Right.
You need to use other things. And then we have a lot of well-meaning recovering people that try to play doctor with people at meetings, say, you shouldn't be taking anything, But yet, both NA and AA have conference-approved literature that warns the members not to play doctors, that some of our members need to be on appropriate medications prescribed by appropriate prescribers. And these documents were written by recovering physicians. So, I mean, we need to get the word out. It's not an all or nothing. In recovery, a lot of people go into black or white, all or nothing. And quality recovery is learning about the balance point.
Right. Now, when you come back on, Dr. Grinstead, will you come back on this show and we can talk about relapse prevention? Would you do that in another month or so? Would you come back on?
That's my second favorite. I would love to talk purely about relapse prevention. It is my second favorite topic after pain.
Wonderful. Yeah, me too. I'd like to talk about that if we could be honored with your presence again. I think people will be very interested to hear from you. Do we have any callers, Steve? Do we have anybody that needs to talk to the doc?
We have people that listen in through chat, and I did post that they can chat with us, live. I'll ask the questions, but no questions came through. But I did want to also mention that we have a Facebook page and also a Facebook group. And so I did post the freedomfromsufferingnow.com on there, and I also added some comments to go to the events chat tab. There are numerous resources available. But in addition to that, I want to extend the invitation to you, Dr. Grinstead, that if you post articles or have something coming up, if you're not part of the Pure Motive Radio Facebook page or group, join and by all means, post to those sites as well. We would love to have your insights.
Okay. That would be good because then group members of our group will know when something's new is up on your site. Then we can go. You could do that too. Yeah, join us.
And the first time they go to my, they can sign up for the RSS feed too. So, but yeah, I'd love to post to your site too. I like collaborating with people because that's what it's all about.
Definitely.
There's enough pain and suffering out there. We don't have to fight over it, right?
Right. And we're all, in recovery. That's what we do. We stay connected.
Yeah, we have to. It's a we program. We got to work together. We have to do it ourselves, but we should try to do it alone.
Right. I know when you isolate it.
I'm going to hop back to something that you said earlier that is just rattling around in my brain here. And I had heard something, and I believe it was beta endorphins, and talking about that's something natural in your body that's more powerful than morphine. Correct me if I'm wrong. More powerful than morphine, and also it has cancer. It helps cure cancer. What is that?
Absolutely. The chemicals, the brain chemicals in our bodies are more powerful than a lot of the pharmaceuticals that are coming out. And, of course, they're a lot healthier for us. And it's when we take good care and balance our systems with, I believe that to have a quality of life and being in recovery requires working on all four areas: our biological self, our psychological self, the social self, and the spiritual self. And when those are all in harmony, the body can heal itself. The body can heal itself. It's when we get that working in harmony. You've heard of a lot of people that have had cancer, and they do a lot of these, quote, alternative approaches instead of going on heavy meds and everything. And some of them, the cancer goes into remission. Now, some people absolutely. I have a dear friend right now who's undergoing chemotherapy. That got caught early, and it's really helping. So, sometimes people need those too. But the body can't train to heal itself.
It can, and I think we can all discover. Each one of us is capable of discovering our inner healing force, and just releasing that. You know what I mean? We all have the healing force within us, but it's a matter of discovering it and working with it. And sometimes it's traditional medicine with some alternative medicine, a combination. I kind of like the Eastern medicine theory. I mean, when I had hepatitis C, and I had to have the interferon treatments. I think they've got a better treatment now. In fact, I know they've got a better treatment. But this was 10 years ago, and I had the interferon and ribavirin, and I had an acupuncturist, a Chinese acupuncturist, helping me with the side effects. So I was doing some Chinese mojo along with it concurrently, and I think it really, really helped me. I worked out at the gym 3 days a week. My regular routine, like weightlifting and cardio, and I kept up my red blood cell count. I did really well, and that acupuncture. I remember him telling me at the beginning of the disease, I was saying, I've got to fight this, and he said, hey, forget about fighting it. Try the Chinese mojo and do the thing where he said, in Eastern medicine, we make friends with the disease, and then we ask it to leave. And I thought, boy, that's such a good concept. I had never, ever thought of that. I'd always thought of combat, fighting something. And I tried it, and it really, really worked. And through the course of the treatment and experiencing everything that I did, I discovered my inner healing force. And I know that my body healed me. I mean, I really did heal myself. Yeah, I did all the other stuff with it. But, I mean, sometimes you could take all the treatments and they won't work. But if you have that collaborative effort with your own system and you have the spiritual piece in there, I know my recovery and 12-step program and other things, really were helpful to me with that, taking that journey. And I think it really, really does work.
Well, I'm a firm believer in the East approach because I know how many times it's helped me out of a major neuropathic flare-up and also migraine and allergies. So the big difference between East and West is West does symptom management, East does healing.
Yeah. Now, do you do what about Qigong? I've never done Qigong, but I've read about it. That's on your list of alternative. On one of your lists that I read, it was one of the things that are used.
Yeah, I the first time I ran across it was I was very early in recovery. It was before I was injured, and I I was taking Tai Chi from a Chinese Sifu master who was also a Qigong master. And one day I was teaching him some karate, and he hurt me. And he says, "Let me heal." And that was the first experience I had with the healing with Qigong, and it was so quick, and it was like, wow. And it got my body, healing basically. But acupuncture, I think it's not about symptom management, although sometimes it definitely reduces the symptoms, but it also heals. That's what I like.
Yeah, there was he had the one meridian, he'd put the needles in up at the top of my head, that the meridian that did it was kind of like an attitude, emotion, spiritual kind of a pick me up.
Yeah.
That was my favorite one. I don't know the terminology for that meridian, but the needles were up in the front of your forehead and going along your kind of the middle of your top of your head. Anyway, it was really good. Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that we're running out of time.
Yeah, I know we are.
And I haven't even got to talk about hypnosis and self-hypnosis yet.
You know what? We should have done that. We'll have to do it next time then. It'll be hypnosis, self-hypnosis, and relapse prevention. Or else you'll just have to come back twice. Will you come back more than once?
Oh, yeah. I love yes.
When we have a show with you, we always walk away with more topics than the one that we started to cover in the first place.
Yeah. And
well, yeah.
I have on our resources page, I have under resources, there's a tab that says Potentials Unlimited. That's the product, self-hypnotic products I've been using personally and professionally since 1988. So we have a whole page for that on our website because I'm such a firm believer of it. That's one of the major tools I use with a lot, not just with pain patients, but for PTSD, for addiction recovery, relapse prevention, because they have so many different titles. So I just wanted to bring that up, to let people know that's a good resource.
So we've only got a minute or two, so I guess we better have Dr. Vincent. I think we better have you run through the things that you want to say to everybody, and go ahead, roll with it. This is your last few minutes.
Okay.
Just tell us what you want to leave us with, and what your contact stuff is in your book. And
okay. Well, first of all, I want to share with everybody that freedom from suffering is everybody's right. However, it's also a responsibility. And I really want to encourage you, check out my website, freedomfromsufferingnow.com. Check out all of the pages, go through it, and find what speaks to you. Our phone number is listed many times on our contact page. I offer a free 10 to 15-minute consultation to see if maybe we can play well together or to guide you in a different direction, because there are resources out there for people they may not be aware of. And I really want to let people know there is hope. That's the big message. There is hope.
Thank you, Steve, Dr. Steve, and thank you, Steve Thompson. And I think we're done.
We're done. We are out of time.
All right.
Hello, friends. This is Steve Thompson, executive producer at Pure Motive Radio. We hope you've enjoyed the Kickass Personal Transformation Show with Marti MacGibbon. And tune in next week, Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where Marti will have more of this entertaining, inspirational, motivational program broadcast to you. Kickass Personal Transformation is brought to you by the Pure Motive Radio Network. Hey, check out our website. Simply go to www.puremotiveinc.com. Again, that's puremotiveinc.com. We're also on Facebook. Simply look for Pure Motive Radio and like us because we like you. If you've enjoyed this show, you'll probably like all of the other shows we have. Tune in on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the One Up